The first show that I did, I think, where people actually attended and I talked to them, of course, that's a really scary thing. And then you find that you really enjoy that interaction from the people. You really find a connection to them, and it really gives your art a lot of meaning when you see how much meaning it has for them. And my work in particular, I found that it reminds people of a lot of childhood memories. I've got a lot of bluebell photographs, and they'll say, "Oh, my grandparents had bluebells," or, you know, I have so many different river scenes, and they'll, "Oh, I remember that from childhood." And I really like my stuff more when I see what a connection that people have to it and the meaning that it gives them. My name is Lynn Hawkinson Smith. People probably consider me an illustrator and a photographer, but I just live art, I think. I was one of those horse-crazy little girls that drew horses all the time, and I think I was 12, and I took drawings of my horses out to my riding instructor and showed them to him, and he said, "If you can draw horses, you can draw anything." And from that time on, I think I had pretty much decided I wanted to work in art for my whole life. My high school art teacher said, "You can either go into interior design or you can teach art." And so when I went to college, I went to Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas, and I graduated with a BFA in art education, which meant I was eligible to teach art K through 12. And then the way their program was, it was actually a double major, so that my other, I had enough hours as a jewelry major. So I graduated with a degree in jewelry and a degree in art education. We came to Illinois in December of 1976. I had worked for 3 years in Lubbock at an art agency, or an advertising agency, and then my husband had an opportunity to come up here, and we thought, well, we'll come up here and stay 2 years so we can see the area, and then we'll move back to Texas. So here it is, a few years later, and we still love it here. My husband grew up in the desert, so he's always loved wood because there isn't any in the desert. And so that's why we live out in the woods, because he wanted to be around trees. We both always loved barns, and he tore barns down just for fun. He built my barn for my horses, and so this was another barn that he tore down, and we put it up as he learned how to do post and beam construction. We put it up as a screened-in porch to begin with, but he's such a collector. After a few years, it looked like a closet. So I suggested as soon as he retired that we turn it into my studio. My studio had been in the loft of our house. We also have a loft, and so this is my lifetime dream, and we've had it now for almost 3 years. We spent an entire summer building it, and so I moved in. It'll be 3 years in October when I moved in and started getting to use it. I got into jewelry because I liked sculpture, but at the time, being your size when I was in school, I couldn't handle some of the tools that they made at the time for sculpture, some of the bigger, heavy tools. And so I got into jewelry, and I didn't make necklaces and rings so much as small sculpture. But when I got out of school and I needed to work for a living, I went into advertising art. And then at night, at that time, because I did advertising art during the day, I looked for another medium to work in, so I became a weaver. So I worked probably for 10 years as a weaver at night when I worked as a graphic designer during the day. And my last piece was a consignment piece that went to Hawaii, and it took me a year to do it because that was the year my son was born. And so when that was done, I thought, okay, I'm done with weaving now, and I sold the big floor loom, all the yarn, everything. So I guess you could say, you know, I don't really have a particular medium. Right now I'm working in colored pencil and photography, but like I told you, I plastered that wall there. I love to take my chainsaw out and cut in the woods. So I think I live art. That raven that's up there, I saw him at Rocky Mountain National Park, and I've just always loved ravens and crows. And they're one of the smartest birds that there is. And so I've always wanted to do one of those, and so that's the story behind him. And I especially like the raven because all the different colors, they're so iridescent, and all the different colors that are in them. Let's see, looking around. Usually the piece that I'm working on is my most favorite piece in the world, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. And then when you're done with that piece, you're done with it because it's the process. It's the process that's doing the work. So probably my favorite pieces right now are probably my most recent pieces because they're my most recent pieces. Sometimes I put more, when I scan the final drawing and I put it into a card, I'll put a background in the card where I won't have it in a print. So I think a lot of times with the birds, people just want to see the bird, and that's really all I want to see. I really don't want to see it with anything else. So that's pretty much the reason that I don't have a background in most of them. I did the egret, is he here? Oh, he had a background because you couldn't see him after I finished drawing him, so I thought, oh, well, I have to put a background in him because you can't see him at all. And I thought, oh, the work that I did on just the subtle differences in the white, and you can't even see it. The photography, I'm really interested in light, and of course living in the woods you get so much difference in the way the light changes throughout the day. Sometimes in the winter I'll be in the studio and I'll say, oh, I gotta get to the river, I gotta get to the river, do you see the light down there? You know, and because the river is just back out through the woods. And you know, I'm so lucky because all of this light is right here around me. I can go out to the road and I get wonderful sunsets, I get the skies. The things that the woods do to light, it's unbelievable. You know, sometimes you'll just stand outside and you just can't imagine what the light does. So I think in my photography I try and show the light. And then in my other artwork, I think I'm trying to express nature, what I like in nature, and to involve other people in nature. I started doing birds again because of my other work life. I designed an environmental magazine for many years, and one issue we had an article on the wrens that lived in Illinois. We had no photographs of them, and so I had to draw the wrens, and that was my start into birds. I had never even drawn a bird before. And I got into drawing birds and just started exploring them. So I'm starting to veer away a little bit from birds and doing a few other things, but I'm still exploring them. When I do a photograph, when I process it, then I print it. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll think, oh wow, this is really neat, you know, and you see different things in it. But it's a totally different. The accidents that happen in photography are different than the accidents that happen in drawing, and you just enjoy the final product. I really like the plants in the woods. I like the trees. I just like everything down there. It's the woods is my sanctuary. And all during the year, depending on the light, the trees are different colors. Sometimes there are trees that are magenta, there are trees that are green, there are trees that are brown and black, and I probably go to the river at least almost every day, and it's different every single day of the year. There's something beautiful, and so that's what my photography is just trying to record what I see there and trying to share it with people. And like I said earlier, if I can make somebody fall in love with the land, with nature, then maybe I've done a little bit of my part. So I really, that's my main goal with my art. You know, you can, of course, it's just to please me. You know, you don't do, I don't do art for anybody but me, but I do like, when I discovered sharing it, I've discovered that people can get some of the same meaning. And then work as a graphic designer, where you try and sell a theme. That's, of course, helped me to understand how people can become invested in nature through my photography or through my illustration. I've been really lucky in most of my career that I have been able to work in the environmental world. So a lot of what I do is still teaching. When I do a card, when I do an illustration of something and I print it as a card, I always have a little information on the back about that particular species, because I'm still teaching, still doing outreach for the university, I guess. And I feel like if I can keep people interested in nature and make them love nature the way I love nature, maybe we have a better chance of saving everything. Well, I am about ready, I think, to move out of colored pencil, because I'm getting to the point where I think I've explored it as far as I need to explore it. But I mean, I've worked in oils, I've worked in acrylics, so each medium has its own attributes. And even photography, I got into photography just simply because our staff photographer at work, he couldn't take the pictures that I needed for a publication, so I went out and took the pictures. And that's how I got into photography. I think that an artist, you could take them and you could spin them around, and in whatever direction they ended up facing, they could do art in that. That's the way they would use those materials to do art. I think that's because I don't think that we're limited to one area. We explore one area, and then you finish exploring it and you move on to something else.